I literally have in my notes this Quasimodo looking bitch. If you can't tell, this is not going to be an analysis video. This is a read. If your algorithm is my algorithm, then you've been seeing talk about this Netflix documentary, Unknown Number, The High School Catfish. The main focus is this young girl, Lauren, and her high school boyfriend, Owen, who had been together for a while. They were, as far as everyone else was concerned, a perfect couple, super cute, super close, all of that. And they begin receiving these text messages from an unknown number. They're like in a group chat with this number, and the text messages really seem like they're targeted at breaking them up. First, it's sowing doubt about Owen's loyalty to Lauren, saying, "Oh, he likes me instead. He doesn't want to be with you. I'm gonna still take him away from you." All of these things. Um, then the text messages over time. This is literally like over the course of like I want to say like 18 months. The text messages turn sexually explicit for one, describing all of the things that Lauren won't do for Owen, all the sexual favors that she won't do for him, and that this person can do them for him, and all of the things that they're going to do with him, and she can't do anything about it, and he doesn't like her anymore, and calling her anorexic, telling her she herself. It gets to a point that these kids decide, okay, we need to tell our parents about this, because at this point they're afraid to go to school. They're trying to figure out who did it themselves, and nobody can really figure this out. All throughout the documentary, the parents are super concerned. Both sets of parents, but really the mothers are who are primarily involved, Kendra and Jill. They've gotten the school involved, they've gotten the local police department involved, and no one is any closer to figuring out who this is. Eventually, a suspect does arise in a young girl named Chloe, who everyone kind of says is not the nicest person, and there are clues in the text messages that point to her. And even once those clues have come to light, there are messages basically admitting that it's her, but it got to the point where it felt so suspicious, like, okay, why is she basically admitting to this, but in person she's not admitting to it? Once they're starting to feel like, okay, maybe she didn't do this, the local police department calls the cyber crimes division at the FBI to see if they can get to the bottom of this. And what they found was so shocking, I had to pick my jaw up off the floor. The crazy thing about this is that the documentary was actually kind of already spoiled for me. I had seen some implications online. Oh, I can't believe someone would do that to their child, X, Y, and Z. And when I started seeing the word mom around the situation, I thought for sure it was going to be Owen's mom, because boy moms, I mean, they got a reputation, and it's not completely undeserved. But what's revealed in the documentary is that Kendra Licari, Lauren's mother, is the one who had been sending the text messages to these children. All throughout the documentary, up until the point of this reveal, Kendra is a talking head, just like everyone else. There's no indication that she had any involvement in this. I've seen this technique done in Netflix documentaries, especially with true crime, where they're able to get the participation of the person who committed the crime. But I want to talk a little bit about what I feel like this documentary is missing in terms of portraying the situation and investigating it. Obviously, Kendra's involvement was a shock, but what was even more of a shock was how she just didn't give a fuck. They have little, clips in there of her crying, "Oh my gosh, my baby," whatever. And I'm like, girl, you didn't give a fuck about your daughter. You didn't give a fuck about her at all. Because how could somebody do this to their child? You could tell that she really hadn't grasped the severity of what she did by how much she wanted to downplay it, how much she wanted to make excuses for it. The fact that she even said, like, lots of us have broken the law at some point. I'm sure, you guys just haven't gotten caught. So you're in the same position as me. I just got caught. And I'm like, no, girl, that's not the same position. You were telling your teenage daughter to off herself. That's not, no, that's special. There's absolutely nothing that can make her behavior here make sense, but I want to dive into some of the reasons that were given in the documentary and why they just don't really hold up to me. Kendra is by all accounts not in the greatest mental state, which, yeah, no shit. She had lost both of the jobs that she was supposed to have had, one of which it doesn't even seem like she maybe ever had. And she was lying to her husband about it. The family was having financial issues because of it. I guess the husband didn't know how severe the financial issues were because she was handling the finances and she was keeping this lack of income from him. So this was going on for like a year that she was lying to her husband about this. Obviously, that was what they were sort of trying to package as what was pushing her into this more and more isolated space, making her want to escape her life and into this other persona. I just don't understand why this was the persona that you wanted to escape into. Like, I'm not trying to say that the pressure of losing your job and the longer you hide it, the worse it gets and all that. I'm not trying to say that that's not going to push you into a place where you don't feel like yourself and you feel, pressured and afraid that you're going to lose everything and things are going to come crumbling down. I just really don't think that there's anything you can say to me that's going to make me feel like, hey, I understand how you got to this place. Or, of course, like, I'm not going to understand it as in, like, I get it, I would do the same thing. Logically, I understand how something like that can take you outside of yourself. I just don't understand how this is the outside that you got to. I believe it was the principal or the superintendent in the documentary that brought up an interesting point about how this may have been a manifestation of some sort of Munchausen's by proxy. And Munchausen's is when you make yourself sick for like attention or personal gain or whatever. Munchausen's by proxy is when you do it to someone else. Famous case is Gypsy Rose Blanchard, whose mother was making her sick, convincing everybody that she couldn't walk. She had all of these different medical issues. She was drugging her daughter, doing all of these things, abusing her to make everybody think that the girl was sick so that she could get special treatment and attention from everyone else, so that the mother could. And the theory with Kendra Licari was that she was completely dismantling her teen daughter's mental health. And throughout the process of this, her daughter was leaning on her more and more. And for a woman whose life was falling apart, it seemed like she wanted her daughter to need her. I think this theory does track with the whole pattern of like clearly trying to break the daughter away from her boyfriend, especially because by all accounts in the documentary, the daughter, she was not a super social person really to herself, and she always just wanted it to be her and the boyfriend together. The mom was also sowing doubt in the text messages, saying nobody likes you. So obviously that was isolating her daughter even more, making her not want to go to school, making her not want to hang out with the boyfriend, any friends, or anything. And she's coming home crying and running into her mother's arms. Now, in the documentary, Kendra says that she did not have any genuine fear that her daughter would take her own life. And I just don't understand how you could have so much faith in that. She's like, well, some people may not believe me when I say that, but you guys don't know Lauren like I do, and all this type of stuff. And I'm just like, girl, why would you ever? It doesn't even matter if you don't think that she would have actually done it. The amount of distress that you put that little girl through is not, it's not something that anybody who genuinely cares about her and who is in their right mind would do. But the one huge and glaring thing that I feel like the documentarian skipped over or glossed over, I should say, were the sexually explicit messages that she sent about her daughter's boyfriend, Owen, who was a child. They touch on it a little bit with Owen's mother saying she thinks that there was some sort of obsession there with Owen. Owen even chimed in saying that, it seemed like Kendra would text him from her own number, like as herself. She would text him a little too often. She would cut his steak for him. She would, just insert herself into situations, and that he thought it was a little weird. But I guess it's sort of like a hindsight is 2020 thing. But I feel like they really could have pressed that a little bit more. And this is a prime example of a situation where the unique factors of a case make it difficult for it to be dealt with properly in the court of law, because she did get stalking charges for both Lauren and for Owen. because of the nature of the text messages that she was sending. But it's difficult because there was no actual sexual activity that she initiated with Owen. But this is like a clear, like, the messages were fucked up. You go watch it if you want to see. But like, they were very, very explicit about, like, I want to do this to him, he's going to do this to me, to these specific parts of me, to these specific parts of him. Like, it was a lot. And I feel like that is like the number one thing besides telling her daughter to off herself. And I forgot to mention that there were also messages saying that I'm going to do that to you. So there were also this young girl dealing with death threats. But I feel like the sexually explicit messages about a minor is, one of the things that she really did not get enough heat for in the court of law, in this documentary. I can't really speak to the court of public opinion at the time that the case went public, because I do remember seeing her mugshot. I just never tuned into the story. I didn't know how crazy it was, so I don't know how widespread the understanding of the content of these messages were, and whether or not people gave her the smoke that she deserved for sending those messages about a kid. But like, I just feel like they really should have pressed that more. They had her in the chair, they could have pressed her about it. I think they asked her one question about it, but you need to press. And I feel like I have more grace for documentarians that maybe some people do, because I've studied documentary filmmaking a little bit and it's one of my interests. I understand that there are a lot of things that you need to balance, especially when you're dealing with someone's participation. A lot of people's participation is contingent on certain things, but also at the same time, so sometimes people might, in our eyes, coddle someone to try to keep them in the chair to see if they can tease things out. But the thing is, that's a skill. Interviewing is a skill. Getting to a place where you can gain someone's trust and draw what you want out of them is a skill. And even if you thought, okay, we don't want to press her too hard because she might get out the chair and decide that she doesn't want to participate in the documentary any longer, there are ways for you to circumvent a subject's participation or approval. Because this is not a situation where the release of the documentary was contingent on her approval. That's something like, for example, if you're doing a documentary about music where you have to use copyrighted material or something, those are a lot more of like a tightrope, because a lot of the times the people whose music you're trying to do, say you want to do a documentary on a musician, a lot of times that documentary has to be run by them or their estate in order for you to be able to use their copyrighted material, and that can skew a lot of narratives. But this is just some broad who committed a crime. You can do the documentary with or without her, or with the partial interviews that you already got. So if you know you want to press her, then do all the stuff that's not pressing her beforehand, and then press her in her last interview. In worst case scenario, okay, she gets up at the chair. There are so many other people, participants, experts that you can bring in to speak to the severity of her text messages, what could be going on psychologically, what this is indicative of in terms of her feelings toward this child. I just feel like that was a huge glaring issue that at every step of the way she got off the hook. I know that there are lots of things that go into what charges are filed and pursued against someone, and I know that she took a plea deal and pled guilty to her 2 counts of stalking. But there are also other crimes here. This is, like I said, this is a situation where the limits of the law, it kind of doesn't, it can't capture all of the wrongdoing in the case. The unlawful acts, the plainly unlawful acts, can't really encompass all of what was actually wrong with the case. And so sometimes when that happens, there are other things that you can sort of pursue. You can be aggressive in the charges that you file. And I don't know if maybe that's what they initially did before they decided to take a plea deal, but I'm like, where are the obstruction charges? She was sitting in the precinct giving interviews, acting like she didn't do this shit for months, wasting so many police resources doing that. Like, where is all that? Maybe that was in the initial filings and then they made the plea deal, but I don't really think that she deserved that. But like I said, there's a lot of things that go into why they choose to do that. I just feel like it was kind of an open and shut case. Like, they literally tracked the stuff, and the only number that was coming up when they subpoenaed, I think Verizon, they subpoenaed it was called Pinger, the app that she was using. When they subpoenaed both of those, the only number that was coming connected to all of these unknown numbers was her number. It couldn't have been nobody else. One thing that's pretty unfortunate and is a cause for concern moving forward is Lauren's relationship with her mother. Because, like I said, I really don't believe that she showed an appropriate amount of remorse for this. And obviously, it's easier said than done to cut your mama off, especially as young as this girl is. In the documentary, she said that she still sees Owen in the hallway, so that implies that she's still in high school at this point. So it's easier said than done to cut your mama off. I personally would never talk to this bitch ever a day in my life again. But like I said, I just don't feel like she showed an appropriate amount of remorse. She has still been maintaining that the first batch of text messages, because when they first started, there was sort of a months long hiatus between when they started up again. She maintains that that first batch of text messages that she did not send and she just picked it up later. And that's one of those pointless ass lies that it's like, why is that even better? Like, she is coming back to me. More of her stupid bullshit is coming back to me. Even now, literally years after this, she's continuing to make excuse after excuse after excuse. The saying that you didn't start the text messages, you just finished them, which, like I said, why does that matter? She even said that that the reason why she started the text messages was because she wanted to see if the kids would text her back something that would give her a clue. Girl, what the fuck? They don't even know who it is. Why would they do that? And they were working with you and working with the police to figure out who it was. So why would they need you to step in to find out who this person was? And also, the person was you. Like, even if, like, if you did what you said you did, which was you only picked up months after the last one started, or the last ones went on for like, I don't even know, like a couple weeks, and they stopped, and that person, imaginary person in your head, has never texted again. Why would you even still need to figure out who that was? Especially when the worst of the text messages, the worst by a long shot, by a country fucking mile, came from your phone. So that was a load of bullshit as well. And I just have a problem with people who are supposed to be uncovering the truth. First of all, my ultimate problem was with her. Let's not get it twisted. But people who are behind the camera, who are supposed to be uncovering the truth, who are just letting people sit in that chair and just lie. And just lie and lie and lie and not be challenged on what they're saying. And so, to what I was saying about Lauren's relationship with her mother, she said in the documentary, you know what? I'm happier with my mother in my life. I want to keep talking to her. I want her in my life moving forward. And Lord help it. This woman doesn't seem sorry for what she did, and everything she did was just so egregious. I feel like if she did it once, she'll do it again. It may not be a text message next time, but she seems obsessed with keeping her daughter dependent on her in some way. And like I said, if I feel like this is going to bubble up, it's going to manifest. Her daughter's only getting older. This She did this to a daughter that had no means of leaning on basically anybody else. Except for some friends that she didn't even see all the time. This girl lived under your roof. What is she gonna do when her daughter goes away to college? If she moves away, if she moves to another state, how severe is she going to? Is she going to make the situation? To what lengths will she go to make her daughter dependent on her? I feel like this is going to rear its ugly head again somewhere in the future. That little girl needs to be in therapy. Hopefully, one day she will grow up and see how crazy this was, just how ridiculous, just how cruel this was of her mother to do to her. And I think, I mean, I just don't know because I don't know what it's like to have somebody that manipulative in your life. I hope that in her early adulthood, or maybe her late teens, that's something she's able to come to realize. But I think probably more than anything, at the latest, if she has her own kid one day, she will step back and be like, I could never do some shit like that to this child. I could never make them think they're better off 6 feet in the dirt than to be on this earth. That's what she did to her kid. So, in conclusion, fuck Kendra Licari. I hope that her daughter and everybody that this woman harmed in the process of her crash out uh, gets into a therapist chair with the quickness and is able to get over this and work through it and come out on the other side healed. And also, on the subject of documentary, because this is something that I will probably talk about a lot on the channel. It's an art form that I really, really care about. I hope that at the core of everyone's intention is truth finding truth, finding creative ways to get to that truth, and not just entertainment. Documentaries can be incredibly entertaining, they can, but it is, it's not a perfect art form in terms of like, I feel like a lot of people think, okay, you watch a documentary, this is what happened. There's so much framing, there's so much creativity that can go into it. And part of that creativity is to find out how to work around all the constrictions that are in the art form to tell the truest story possible. And I feel like that essence of documentary filmmaking fell flat in this instance. It was entertaining to watch. It was a shocking story. It was a shocking story on paper. What could you do behind a camera that would bring more to it than how shocking it was already in a news article? I don't have nothing else to say. Here are my social media handles. You can follow me there if you want. Also, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and click the bell icon so that you get a notification every time I get off my butt and post a video. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one. The main focus of the film is this young girl